Welcome to IBM Support TV, where we answer questions and share technical support information, hints, and tips on IBM products.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on IBM Blueworks Live. Envision your strategy, communicate your ideas, streamline your processes. We have with us today Filip, who is the Senior Technical Manager with Digital Process Automation. He'd help us understand the typical use cases and the need for this process and decision modeling tool. So with that, I would like to cover a few housekeeping guidelines. The recording will be shared with you via email after the webinar is over, and you may type your questions, if any, in the widget provided to you on the screen. All these will be addressed towards the end. With that, over to you, Filip.
Thank you. I'm the technical lead for digital business automation within IBM, and I'm going to give you an overview of the tooling today. I'm going to start with sharing some of the reasons why you would need a tool like this, what some of the advantages of the approach are, and then I'm going to show you a demo of the tool. Now, Blueworks Live is a process discovery tool. So what it is, it's about discovering the processes inside your organization for the reasons typically of process improvement, right? You want to understand, well, what do the processes look like? But only if you understand your processes can you actually improve them. So it's all about documenting what we do. What do we do on a day-to-day basis? We do some verification, do some validation, we do some calculation, but who does that? How long does it take them to do that? Who actually approves the work? So it's all about documenting those steps that go into an end-to-end business process. And the reason people typically do that is organizing the data to form a picture, right? We draw notes on sticky papers and we put them on a wall, and then we try to draw lines to them, and we can assign responsibility for each of those activities. So that's what Blueworks Live is trying to do, helping you discover the processes in your organization. Now, the reason why that has been difficult sometimes is not all tools that we know are online. Some tools are file-based, and that makes it very difficult to actually collaborate on the process. A lot of times, process discovery is a teaming effort. So you need to have the ability to access your tool anytime, anywhere, right? So you need to be able to have a web interface to your central repository. That's important. Now, collaboration is important because not all of your processes can be easily created by one person. So if you need somebody to review your process, what's going to happen? They're going to look at it, they're going to make changes, they're going to send it back to you. You need to merge those changes because you already moved on to another part of the process. So Blueworks Live allows you to actually edit the same process in real time between teams. So you can work on a part, I can work on a part, and I can see your updates in real time, right? And also because you have one place for your documents, nothing gets lost. Imagine having a file-based system with files all over the place. You have a shared directory, you have it on your internet, a process model has links to documents, to additional policies, to sub-processes. So having that in a file-based system makes it very difficult to search, to find, and also to update. So having a central web-based repository that's easily searchable and taggable makes it very easy to actually figure out where your processes are, which team has them, how they're being organized, but also allows you then to do governance. It allows you to send your artifacts towards a governance workflow. So a governance workflow is a building workflow system that allows you to send your version to your manager, to another manager for review. They can approve your version of the process, they can put in the comments, and they can eventually approve it. So having governance is really important to make sure that the process is valid, but also is being kept up to date. That's quite important. If a process gets mapped, it needs to be maintained by the right people at regular intervals. So that's what we position with Blueworks Live, an online collaborative tool with exceptional governance. And the reason why you would do this is because the speed of change is much faster than in the past. And for an organization to adapt itself to the speed of change, they need to be able to innovate. So things need to be improved all the time, right? Because you want to be able to provide a better experience to your clients, better customer satisfaction, launch new products to the market. So you need to be able to say, hey, what are we doing currently? How can we do things better? And the thing is, if you want to do things better, yes, documentation is really important, but our vision is also, hey, we also want to be able to automate certain steps of the process. So that's when the next steps comes in. Because what you also can do with Blueworks Live is export out your processes. And you can export out those processes to, for example, a workflow tool. You already have a process map, you might as well automate that process map that you just have discovered. So business automation workflow is the IBM tool that allows you to import those diagrams from Blueworks Live, and you can allow them to operationalize them. It allows you to then create a UI. It allows you then to create integration points to your backend systems. And operational decision management is the add-on tool that allows you to do rules management. So if you have a lot of rules in your processes, you can express those rules inside the ODM rules engine. You can call them then from business automation workflow. For example, if you want to do a fee calculation, eligibility determination, validation, you want to automate those decisions, you can do that in ODM. You can have it all managed by the business automation workflow system. So that's kind of our vision towards future automation. Discover in Blueworks Live, automate in business automation workflow, and automate the decision and operational decision management. Okay. Now, in order for us to illustrate the diagrams that we have in Blueworks Live, we did not just adopt any standard, but we adopted the most widely known BPMN notation standard. So this notation standard is a standardized way of laying out your objects onto a canvas with swim lanes, with the right pictures and diagrams and sub-processes. And the advantage of having this BPMN support is that it's universally understood. Both business people and technical people are able to typically understand a diagram very, very quickly without too much confusion. So that's what we support as a notation standard. Now, in terms of organizing all those processes in the larger library, we adopted the APQC style. So the top level is the space. So a space is like a folder where you put in all your artifacts. And you typically organize it by line of business or by technology or by division. You have your process, of course, which are a series of interrelated activities with in and output. You have your milestones, which determine a point of, hey, I've completed something. I'm not typically going back to that step. It's done, that activity. So it allows you to visually map out major milestones during a process. And then we have, of course, individual activities, which are human or system activities or a decision activity. Okay, so this is the screen that we see if you go to blueworkslive.com. This is also where you can sign up for a free 30-day trial. It takes around 1 minute to sign up, and after you have received the link in your email, you can log in into this page. So let me just log in with my account. Here we go. You can see that one email address can be associated to multiple accounts. So you could administer multiple accounts all over the world if you wanted to. So let's see, what do we have here? So there's a couple of tabs at the top. Work has to do with governance, with approval. Community, our community nodes and library are actually, that's what my diagrams are going to be. So first at community. So here is a list of, it's kind of my news feed. You know, when you're on Facebook, you have your news feed. So, well, here is my news feed. These are all the things that happened in this community with IBMers. You can see that other people have made some changes to any processes. I made some changes as well. So it's a complete audit trail of actually what has happened. And you can filter it by all activity or only the items that you have followed, right? As you go through the design of your process and your models, you can actually tag certain activities. You can tag a whole space, or you can tag a specific process diagram, and any changes to them will actually be communicated to you. You can also set it up to receive an email alert if somebody has changed a certain process diagram. Okay, you can also create public posts, notice of upgrade, for example, to the wider community. But the most important one is our library. The library is how we organize our artifacts, where we organize our processes and also our decisions and also our policies. I'll explain later what actually that is. So right now I'm looking at my favorite spaces. I can also look at all the spaces inside my organization. It's quite a lot, and I can look at them in this tree structure. So if you have specific sub-processes, you actually see them over here. There's a lot of them in this training one, of course. But you can go as deep as you want. You can have as many sub-processes as you want, as you can see over here. But typically, I like to go to the favorites. This is just a short filter view of just the processes that I'm interested in. So I'm going to create a new one. I actually created one already, but let me just go to demo space. So what do we see here? First of all, the space detail. What is the purpose of having this space? So we need to document what process or what activities we're going to do here. So documentation of new credit decisioning process, right? For loan application. That's what we want to do. That's the goal of this process. Well, we also have performance goals, right? Increase STP by 15%. So how important is that? That's really important. Reduce errors by 30%. That's also important. Okay. And then in the middle, we're going to then create our artifacts. So we can either create another subspace, a process blueprint, a process app that allows you to approve it, a policy, which is an attachment or a hyperlink, and a decision, which is a business rule. Let's start with the process blueprint first. Credit process. There we go. So when you're in a room and you have a group of analysts in the room, and let's say, hey guys, let's figure out this process. What's the first thing they're gonna do? They want to draw down pictures on the wall. Now, that's all great, drawing pictures on the wall, but then they want to move those pictures. So if you have a lot of changes and a lot of people in the room, that picture is going to change a lot. So the best thing is to actually use sticky notes, right? You get brown paper and you got sticky notes. So everybody starts writing things on a sticky note. Assess application. That's a good milestone. Maybe we need to do internal assessment. Oh, really got it? Approval. How about that? Approval. And then we have loan establishment. Okay, let's have a few milestones. Under those milestones, of course, we have activities. What are the activities? Initial doc review, right? What else do we want to do? We want to check income level. We also might want to check spending pattern. We might want to check if it's an existing client of no, of course. Determine existing client, right? We might want to do that first, so we're just going to move it here. And if it's an existing client, or if it's not existing client, we need to create new account for this client. Create new client. Well, it's actually not a client yet. We're going to call create new prospect. How about a prospect? Prospect, okay. There we go. Create new prospect in the system. And let's go, once the approval, manager review. You might have a credit officer review. You might have a sent back letter. It's an approval letter. We might even send back a letter. Could be approval, rejection, approval letter. In this case, we just sent another back letter, which is a rejection letter. Sorry, we don't want to have we don't want you as a client. And then establish loan in system. Okay, that might come as the last thing. There we go. So, all right. So that's what we would typically do, right? We have the sticky notes and we then say, okay, these are the activities that we have in our process. Who needs to do the activities? That's a good point. Determine if it's something existing client. Well, I guess it's the loan officer that does this. Loan officer. Create new prospect. I guess it's also loan officer. And the other roles that we have found quickly, manager review. I guess that's the loan manager. And credit office review. I guess that's the credit officer, right? As you type, you can see as you type along, you're gonna get suggestions of previous entries that you have that are similar. Now, you can also lock this list. You can create what's called an enumeration, a fixed list of entries for each of those fields that they have to pick from. So in this case, it's a free-for-all. You can type anything you want, and you can clean it up later, or you can merge similar values later in the admin screen. But if you want to lock it down, you have it a list. Okay. All right. We have a couple of roles, but then we need to make some decisions in there as well. So what we do is switch views. So instead of having the sticky note map, we're going to go to a process diagram map. So I'm going to switch, and the first time we will have this message say I'm going to create one automatically. Okay, so let's confirm that. And it's going to create a diagram based on the steps as well as the people. So you see credit officer review, creating a suspect. Now over here you have this lane called unassigned. So now we can do is instead of typing it in all the time, we can just drag this to the right person. This could all be done by the same person. There we go. And then rejection letter. Now, we need to then, of course, put in some decisions, right? For example, is an existing client? Well, I don't know. Maybe the system needs to check if it's an existing client or not. Or we can check it ourselves. We can put in the step, check in client database, right? And then the client database might be not the loan officer, but it might be the CRM system. So in this case, not a loan officer. And then we might be able to create a new lane. Add a swim lane. A swim lane we call CRM, right? Or just system. Checking client database, that can be done in the CRM system. Okay? Is the client yes or not? Is it existing client? Existing client? Yes, no. If it's existing client, let me add some new activities saying create new prospect. We call it prospect. I keep saying client, but it's actually prospect, of course. Prospect, existing client. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, there we go. So this decision, of course, is made by the system. Put that one over there. And create new prospect. This, of course, also over there. Move it. Create new prospect. Okay. So existing client. Yep. Creating a prospect. We don't want to go to the end. Nope. We want to draw a line. And just to continue, I'm going to delete this end thing. Okay. Create new client. Is existing client. Not an existing client. We got to create one. Then we go to the next step. Create new prospect. Okay. And then afterwards, we do a doc review. That's correct. Check income, check spending patterns. And then it goes to manager review. So manager review is an important step. We actually want to make that a different color. Let's make it orange. Credit office is also very important. Let's make him important as well. And rejection letter, I think that should be red, right? And the approval letter should be green. Of course, after this, we're gonna have a decision. Approved. Yes. Well, no should not be there, of course. No should go to the rejection letter, right? So we're going to move that here. And rejection letter. And this one, we're going to delete this. And we're going to draw a line from approved to here. Approved. In this case, this one is no. And we're going to add a label saying this one is yes. All right. The rejection letter, this one does not go there. Delete this one, then we'll go to the end. Or we can go to the the share. We'll share the end. Here we go. And we're going to remove this one. So now you can jiggle where this should be. You can also have it say, hey, it has to go there. So you can reposition the connections. Okay. So that's as our initial process. What we're going to do now is adding some more detail to the process. So in order to do that, I'm going to double click on an activity. For example, this one, double click, and over here you can see the details page. You see who is the participant and any systems involved. Is any due date? We're going to determine existing client. Well, not really a due date, but we're going to add some duration. I don't think it should take you more than 30 minutes to determine someone is an existing client. How long is it going to take me that while I'm working on it? Cycle time, let's give it 15 minutes. No wait time. It will cost me internal cost, let's say $15 to actually process this. So you can see it's a whole lot more properties, and in the management screen, you can actually turn on and turn off certain screens. You can also add your own properties, right? For example, here, critical path. So that's one I added myself. So you can add your own ones as well. So you can see here a few other tabs. For example, problems. Incomplete data might be an issue that typically occurs. It happens all the time. Not really high. Maybe we give it a medium. You can add some more. Incomplete data or insufficient documentation. Documentation determines if somebody is a client or not. So we need to give them a call back. There we go. So that allows you to actually document some of the problems that you might occur. Policies. Policies are interesting. So you might be able to attach existing documents or an hyperlink. So when you click on it, you actually see some of the existing policies that exist in any of the spaces. Know your customer. Maybe that one is interesting. I'll show you later how to create your own customer. How to create your own policy. You can see that this is actually a hyperlink. It actually goes to the Wikipedia page, but it could also be just an attachment. You can actually refer to to multiple. Let's see, sign up maybe multiple policies. Fees, yeah, fee rules. So that is, there we go. If you click on it, you will actually go to the policy. In this case, that's a document, I know, and that's a hyperlink. So if you click on it, you actually go to the policy. And in this case, it says, hey, know your customer. It's a hyperlink, and it's used in 3 processes: a credit, sample, and HSE policy process. When I'm actually here, I can actually either go back or even edit this specific policy because I actually have access to it. So I can add maybe another hyperlink, 2009 policies, mycompany.com/policies/2019. This could be that hyperlink, or it could be an attachment that you might have here. There's actually physical attachment with an existing process map, for example. There we go. See? So that's possible as well. So a policy is a hyperlink or an attachment, and it can be shared across multiple processes, right? So now that I've updated this policy, I can go back to my credit process. There we go. We're still here in this first step. So there's 2 policies associated to this activity. And here's some documentation. Documentation is typically used to actually describe work orders, right? Log into customer policy system, search based on customer last name, phone number. You can also add screenshots if you want to, so you can have a hyperlink to your actual policy system or a picture to help this person complete his work, right? So it could be a screenshot of the application and indicating what he should be pushing, which button he should be pushing to actually check if this person is an existing customer or not. Now, attachments are local attachments. So anything that you've locally shared on your drive, that could be an attachment. The difference between attachment and a policy is, of course, a policy is shareable across multiple spaces and processes, whereas an attachment is directly embedded within this specific task. So you can't share it anymore. All right, so that's the difference. And a comment is a local comment, usually related to the actual process mapping. First revision, initial capture of task. Enter that, and somebody else might say, I've updated the task description, maybe in a later revision, right? So any comments, it's just an audit trail of what actually has happened to this specific task. Now, if here's what you see are the actual social collaboration features. For example, if I start this task, anytime somebody makes a change to this task, I'll get a notification, right? This is simply identifying what type of task this is. You can actually change it directly from here. There's a normal task, could also be a rule or some other task. Well, we'll get to that later. All right. So here, determine existing client. Now, remember what I said about the different activity types, right? The next one is checking client data. But if I needed to add a task in between, I can actually add an activity, a gateway. I can have a sub-process, a messaging event. So these are some of those pictures that we use from the BPMN methodology, right? So these are standard descriptions or standard pictograms from that standard. So everybody who knows a standard kind of knows what's meant with this. They know that this is a parallel gateway, this is an inclusive gateway. So these are typical pictogram used in that standard. Now, one interesting one is a sub-process. The sub-process, I can embed some more detail into this main process. I can then easily hide it, right? Sub-process, determine existing client, check with back office. Let's say that that's the main task, and inside there I got 3 sub-activities that I could insert here, and I can easily hide it. So you can see a sub-process is embedded in this specific diagram. You can't share it anymore. Now what I can do is insert a link process. So a link process goes out and say, hey, what other process do you have? And what other processes, what existing process do I actually want to link to this one? So onboarding, so you can see I can filter down, higher onboarding, customer onboarding. All right, I like that sub-process, let me link to it. Now it actually has a link. And what happens is, once you now click on this link process, I see the actual link, and I actually can go to that link. So this means that any process that you design can be used within another process as a link process. So everything is shareable over here. So you see here that this process now is being linked from the actual original credit process. So, and at any given time, you can click on the properties and you can click on where used. So where is this sub-process used, if it's used at all? Now, I've designed this from scratch, so this one's not used anywhere else. But otherwise, it will give me that same overview as you've seen before. When it comes to policies, you see in which spaces and which processes this specific process has been linked from. Okay, so that's the difference between sub-processes and link processes. Now let me add a few more details here when it comes to the cycle time. Let me add a few more. So I want to show you the analysis. And in order to do analysis, we need to have a bit of data. So let me just add some timing data, some of the intervals. There we go, 90 minutes, 10 seconds. Cost, yep, $20. Let's do one more. Here we go, this one takes 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and this one goes $80. Okay, all right, I have enough. So one of the cool features you can do with Blueworks Live is do analysis. Okay, analysis actually means looking at the process from different perspectives. So right now, I'm looking at this process from a participant perspective, which means that the diagram is overlaid with all the actual participants of the process. But I can also check other ones. For example, if I want to look at the cycle time, right? Now I can see the participants and the cycle time side by side, and also the work time or the wait time. Well, it gets a bit much, but here, for example, I have my participants, CRM, cycle time, and work time. That helps you if you want to have a separate discussion, right? You want to not talk about participant, but you want to be you're talking, for example, to the actual finance team. They want to know, well, how much is this process going to cost us? What are the most expensive parts of the process, and how long does each process take? Is there a relationship between the duration of the process and the actual internal cost that we have allocated to it? So this allows you to quickly see the work time versus the cost. 15 minutes, 15 minutes, $15, 10 minutes, $20, 5 minutes, $80. Wow, something really expensive is happening in this specific activity. Let's figure out what's going on here. So that allows you to share the knowledge of this process and look at it from multiple perspectives and collaborate on this process with other people just to determine what is going on with this process. Are there any bottlenecks? What are the expensive steps? Are there any ways that we can make this process more efficient, right? And similar with anything else. So even if you have created custom properties, the custom properties will show up inside this diagram as well. So you can analyze your custom properties as well, okay? Now, as a follow-on to that, there's a very cool feature called Playback. So Playback allows you to visually show the possible paths to the process. Well, typically, people have a sunny day process, which we call the happy path. So first thing you need to do is you record the actual steps for the happy path. So I'm going to type in the name of the scenario, and that starts here, then it goes here, then it goes there. It's an existing client. If it's a happy path, yep, I'm going to create a new prospect. Do that. Is approved? Yep, it's approved. It's approved. It's an approval letter, and we're done. That's my happy path scenario. Okay. Now you can see I have 6 slots. So let's record my exception path. Okay, and the exception path, I'm going to start here, do this. It's not an existing client. Create one. And it's approved. Nope, it's rejected. No loan for you. All right. So now what we can do is we want to share this knowledge with the team. So you can imagine right now, I've recorded all the different scenarios, and I'm going to share those scenarios with a wider audience. So we got a big presentation room, and we need to share the knowledge of this process. We need to play it back to the audience, to the business owner, to say, hey, these are the scenarios that we have found in your process. Are they correct? Can you give us your feedback? And then what you do, you press the play button. So you press the play button, and you step by step, click, click, click. Say, guys, this is the happy path that we recorded. Can you give us your feedback? Is this correct? Yes or no? You can go back. So you can actually, you start talking. It's a talking point, right? You want to look at the screen and you want to say, hey, I'm going to go back and forth in the process. Is what I'm doing correct? And one of the cool things you can do, you can say, hey, remember those properties? Let's look at it from a cost standpoint, right? We'll start the process. This is $15, and this is $95. So it actually adds up as you step through the process. The same with the working time, right? The working time, it actually starts to add them all up. There you go. So this is a really cool feature to share the knowledge and to collaborate on the process, right? And you can say, hey, I'm going to switch to the exception path. The exception path goes here, goes there. Oh, that's an extra step. That extra step is, for example, more expensive. And now it's $45 versus $35 that I just had. So this is a really cool feature to communicate your process and the multiple combinations, the multiple paths to a wider audience. All right, so that's Playback. All right, I'm going to show you one more feature, and that's decisions. So in order to check if somebody is an existing client or not, instead of having a diamond, I'm going to check in the client database. I might want to add some rules, right? Let's add a rule activity, auto determine. Let's see. Oh, that's a bad example. That is a bad example. Let's delete this one. Okay, approved, yes or no. Okay. Let's do this. All right. Credit checking. Okay. Auto credit check rules. Credit check rules. There we go. Let's add some rules over here. All right. So that's a type, a decision task. All right. Now I can go in there and start editing a rule, but what I want to do is when I go back to my space, I show you that we have process blueprints. And of course, we create a policy here, but we can also create a decision here. Credit rules. So I'm going to compose a decision. So you can compose artifacts outside of the process, right? And then later you can link it to it. Of course, inside the process, you can also do that at the same time. But anyway, let's add some data input. So in order to do a credit decision, we need to have some data input. So how many are we going to need? Let's say we need 2 data inputs, and the output could be approval result. Okay? Yes and no. So how we're going to determine if we're going to give somebody some money? Well, we're going to look at this income, annual income. What else do we want to look at? We want to look at his, what's typical? Annual income, and we want to look at his credit score, right? Credit score, and we want a loan to value ratio, LTV, loan to value ratio. Okay. All right. So now what happens is these are 3 inputs, and we need to have this as an output. So we can double click, and we go to the decision tab. Here we're going to create a table using the inputs and output that we have just generated. And boom, it shows us a table, and we say, well, if the annual income is below $50,000 and your credit score is below 300, 400, loan to value ratio is 90%, then we're going to deny. All right. So then we can say, okay, well, what are the variations on that? So then we can make variations, right? Loan to value ratio, if it's 80%, then we're going to approve, etc., etc. So this is just a way for users to document the business rules that they have. You can make it more complex because what you can do is you can add sub-decisions, right? Instead of having an annual income, we can have an LTV calculation. So the output has LTV. Delete this one, and this one has that input. Well, loan amount, loan to value amount, right? Loan amount, and then the loan amount and the loan to value collateral amount. That's not good. Let's say property amount, right? Loan to value ratio, that's what it means. And when I double click here, the same thing. So the loan amount, if the amount is $1,000 and the property amount is 90, 50, $500,000, loan to value is property divided by loan amount. So it's actually a formula. Okay, that's what you can do as well. You don't have to fill in anything here, right? It doesn't have to be an actual rule. This is purely for documentation. So what I have put over here is basically a formula. The property divided by loan amount is my loan to value. That's the way I calculate it. And the credit rule, see, you'll have that as well. So this is really a way for the business to document the process or to document the decisions, so that later on a technical person can then actually implement that rule into something like a rules engine or any other, maybe just pure code, right? It's up to you how you do that. But this just gives you a place to document what you want to that decision to look like. All right. So now we're going to insert this particular rule into my process. All right. I'm going back to my process diagram. And over here, check credit rules, double click, press edit, decision, and now I can look at, what was it, the credit rule. Yep, credit rule, that's the one I just created. And now that rule has been associated to my process, right? So I can click on it, that will bring me back to the specific credit rule. Okay, You can see the full view. Here we go. And you can actually see the table that was created by this person, as well as the formula that I created. Okay. So that's decisions. That's decisions inside the process. So now that we have a version of the process that we're happy with, I'm going to take a snapshot. I'm going to call it ready for review. Okay, so now this snapshot is available. I can click on it to see the actual version of it, if I made any changes. What I also can do is actions. I can restore it, publish it, or I can launch a process app. In this case, I'm going to do an approval process. Approval flow. There's an existing approval flow already that I want to do, that I want to use. I'm going to launch that process flow. So this allows me to send out this version of the process into a governance flow, right? Quarterly review. I'm going to have some more detail. This is a template. So this is a template I created before. So the approval flow is related to this artifact. There's a title here. Please review. And then these are the template tasks. There's 3 tasks, but now this gives me the opportunity to actually edit it. I know this person no longer is involved in this process, and I just want to assign it to myself so that I can approve it. There we go. I can set up a due date. I can also set the fact it's the approval step, yes or no. And I can add additional tasks, sequential or parallel tasks if I wanted to do it. Then I can launch it. Oh, this one is no longer there. Let me just remove it and launch the approval flow. So the work has been started. There we go. So now I can see here that this specific version is now under review. This workflow task outstanding for this version of the process. Okay, so what would this normally look like if I go home and come back the next day? I'm going to see my work in my work tab. So the work tab is the first tab where I see my tasks, my processes, and any stats. So I can see here the actual instance that's running right now. It's active. These are other processes that were completed before. Here's some stats on my performance in the last few days and how many flows I've actually started, in which flows I've participated, and if I have done it on time or not. So let's go back to my task, click on it. I can see here the instance is running and I can now review it. So I can review it basically means I click on the process, check if it's all right or not, add maybe a comment saying looks all good, no change. And I can complete my task. This will go to the next person. Of course, in this case, it's me. I can approve it. And then I approve it again. Now this instance is completed, right? If I go back to that actual instance, I can see that there's no longer in progress. Okay, and this means now that this process has undergone the review process, and I can now actually say, hey, I want to publish it out. Now, when you publish it out, it becomes visible to read-only users. So it means it's visible to the wider audience. If you go back to the space, you'll see that's been marked as well. See a little flag over here saying this process has been published. The last feature I want to share with you today is process collaboration. So we have inside our Blueworks Live, we have actually a built-in chat feature. So at the bottom of the screen, you can see all the users that are logged in. There's 2 users on the left-hand side, we got user 3, and on the right-hand side, we got user 4. So I can then chat with that other person. So, hey, can you give me a hand? I'm struggling with this process. Can you help me update it? I'm gonna go to that process, and then at that page, I can then say, send a link to this page to the chat room. The other person will actually see that link appearing in this chat window. You can click on it so he knows where you're at, so you can navigate to the same screen. Now, when you're at the same screen, you can then start working on the process in real time together. He can make change on the right-hand side, and they immediately get updated on your screen on the left-hand side. You can move things around. You can change the colors of your attributes or of your tasks. You can send messages back, of course. And you can also change the properties, right? You can change the properties on your side, and you can then ask them for feedback. So you can go back and forth between the two people in your team. So this is really, really, really useful. You can't always be in the same room. And a lot of times when you are remote, it's very difficult to have quality time, meaning work together on the same asset at the same time and go back and forth in terms of collaboration. So having this real-time access to the same processes in the same space is immensely useful. All right, that was the demo. I would like to now open the line for a few questions.
So yes, we have some questions on the screen. So the first question is, how would we use these diagrams in subsequent automation tools? Is there an ability to export them?
That's a very good question. Like I said in the beginning, right? Process documentation is typically used for two reasons, either for training purposes or to induct new employees, explain to them how the process works, or for eventual automation. So the Blueworks Live allows you to export those tools as in the BPMN format or XPDL format. So these are formats that a workflow tool understands. So after you export the diagrams, this workflow tool can import them again and then use them as a starting point for an automated workflow. So when you have an automated workflow, you typically have screens, right? You have user interface with forms, and you also have system activities such as integration to a database or other backend systems. So being able to export it in that specific format allows you to actually automate that process later on.
Thank you. Another question is, we have a lot of documents already in MS Visio. Is it possible to import them?
MS Visio is a very popular tool. If you start to do process modeling, documentation, most people will either grab PowerPoint or, well, PowerPoint. They grab Visio, right? Visio allows you to create diagrams. Now, Visio is a great tool if you're the only one creating a diagram, right? But it's very difficult, like I said, to share and to collaborate. So if you have a whole library of Visio documents already, we actually do support the Visio format as an input format. So you can import and reuse those existing diagrams. There's a little bit of mapping required. If you've only used a standard palette, the standard blocks and diagrams and triangles, you're fine. But if you have used your own libraries, there's some transformation. So you actually have to say, hey, this picture that you use will translate to a block, or this will translate to a triangle or a diamond. All right, but yeah, Visio is fully supported.
Thank you. Another question is, what are the different user types you have in the platform? Is everyone an editor, or I can give people just read-only access?
Yes, so an editor is the base user, right? That's the person that can do everything. So an editor can create a process and can analyze the process, etc., etc. Now, there's also then another license type called a contributor. A contributor can do everything that an editor can do, except creating a process and except editing a process, right? And the contributor is typically somebody who can analyze the process. So somebody already has created a process, contributor analyzes it, and might also maybe approve a specific version of a process. And then the last type of user is a viewer, a read-only user. So this is typically the larger population of an organization. Anyone else you want to give access to, but you don't want them to make any changes. So those are the process users, people that have to look up the diagrams, but they're not in charge of modifying them.
Thank you. And I can see one very interesting question. Can I connect the platform to my single sign-on solution so that my users don't have to manage my passwords separately?
Yes, I mean nobody likes to manage passwords, right? We all have hundreds of passwords already, so one more it doesn't help. So we support something called SAML 2.0. So SAML is a system that allows Blueworks Live to reroute authentication to your existing single sign-on solution. So after you log into Blueworks Live or after you type in your email address, it will say, hey, I recognize this email address. Let me redirect traffic to this guy's organization and let him use his own organization authentication mechanism. Once that has been successfully done, it goes back to Blueworks Live as an authenticated user. So SAML 2.0 is fully supported as a SSO single sign-on solution.
Thank you. How would you design a complex process with multiple repeating steps?
Yeah, so there's actually two ways of doing that. Typically in a process, you have a thing called a sub-process. So a sub-process can be used for repeating activities, right? So you can have multiple activities leading towards the same sub-process. Now, a sub-process is embedded into your main process. So you can, zoom in, zoom out, or collapse. Or there's a little plus symbol. If you click on the plus, it will expand out, basically. Now, having the sub-process into your main process is a great way to do, repeating steps. However, it can only be used by your process. If you say, hey, well, this sub-process, which is about signing up a new client, for example, needs to be used by other processes as well. So in that case, we use the notion of a linked process. So a linked process is basically an external link out to any other process. And that makes a process reusable by more than one process.
Thank you. Let us pause for some, if there are any more questions. Probably we have time for these many questions, and we could address the remaining over email.
Thanks for watching this episode of IBM Support TV. Please leave a comment with topics you would like to see in future episodes. Until then, stay tuned.